Hey there, Zlatko here. Welcome to What is My Brain podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I get the opportunity to chat with fellow founders and business operators about their journey and how they got to where they are now, where they are going, and how they're going to get there. I'm planning on bringing guests and touching on topics such as running multiple businesses, executing ideas, and just spitballing about random topics and current events. It's a casual conversation, and that will hopefully bring value to anyone that decides to listen. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, man. We are absolutely live right now. Sharif, thank you so much, my man. Before I hit record, I know you said I think we last time we talked was probably around like a year. So finally get to catch up and see what you've been up to, see what you've been working on. And I also want to figure out how the hell we met because I think it was either through Twitter or something else, but I want to go back and figure out and see what the track record was there to how we got connected. So I want to give you the floor, my man. Just go ahead and give a little introduction of what you're working on and anything else you want to talk about, dude. The floor is yours.
Sure, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's been about a year since we chatted. I've been going on a journey post acquisition of my marketing company, and as being a founder. I'm a 3 times founder now, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit. But yeah, going on that journey, and I think you've been kind of going through a little bit of that yourself. There's some of that, let's call it growth phase fatigue, that happens after you've
Yeah.
built a company to a certain stage, and how you navigate that after is a really interesting process. It's almost a full circle process, and so that took me a year to kind of come to. And I think I figured it out now. We'll see. We'll see if this rant is coherent
The
and
question is,
it makes sense.
do we ever really figure it out? My answer is no to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of my rant, I guess, in a way. But and
Yeah.
I think we met on Twitter. I think that's the answer. I think we met on Twitter.
Okay. Okay. Perfect, man. Perfect. Well, tell me a little bit about your, go in depth in terms of your background, your
Yeah,
marketing agency and everything else that you've tapped into. I know you were even in the beverage or cooking space or something like that as well. So, which is very interesting to me. I love cooking. I love all things food. So, I'd love to tap into all of that and how you came about into, marketing and all that good stuff.
sure. Yeah, I'll go back a little bit more because I know sometimes when you tell your story, you kind of talk about your origin and your family and stuff. So maybe I'll
Yeah.
kind of touch a little bit on that. But
Please, please.
um, so my dad used to tell me this interesting story about my grandfather. My family's from East Africa and North Africa. And so my grandfather came from India to East Africa to build a railroad, and he was illiterate. He couldn't read or he couldn't write. But eventually, somewhere down the line, he made a little bit of money. And my dad always tells this story about how the first thing my grandfather spent his money on was a newspaper subscription, and he taught himself to read from that. And I found that really, really interesting years later down the road, because I realized that one of the things that my parents always taught me, and they instilled in me, was the ability to learn. And how do you learn? How do you absorb knowledge? The value of reading, and kind of being a lifelong student. I really appreciate and tip my hat to my parents for that. They instilled the importance of that in me, and to this day, I see that value. It's really interesting how that kind of pops up later. But ironically, no one in my family growing up, apart from a couple uncles here and there, was an entrepreneur. And so I always found that interesting. And I never knew that entrepreneurship could be a career. No one really highlighted that to me. I thought I don't know why. I just never really realized you could
Right.
you could come up with an idea, take it from concept to reality, and commercialize it. For me, it was
Yeah.
always, coming from an immigrant background, and I'm sure you have the same as like engineer, scientist, doctor, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But what I've come to realize now, looking back and thinking of things, was that everyone in my family had an entrepreneurial mindset, and that's something that I've really come to terms with now, post kind of being a founder, and selling my company and exiting another. Was that, and I struggled with this for a little bit, is that you don't have to, in order to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to be on the cap sheet. You don't have to be the CEO. You can still be entrepreneurial. And I think in this decade, prompted by Shopify and all the stuff that's going on, it's never been more true that you can be
Right.
entrepreneur. You can have an entrepreneurial mindset, and you can take an entrepreneurial and creative approach to problem solving. And I recognize that everyone in my family has always taken that. And in later stages in life, they've sometimes become entrepreneurs now, than their second career or in their retirement careers and whatnot. And I kind of had a similar story. So originally I was an environmental scientist, so I went the science route. So kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So self-fulfilling prophecy, went the science route, and I always loved science. To this day, I love science. And I didn't go the doctor route. I became an environmental scientist. I kind of specialized in sustainable tech. So I've always had a tech angle. My dad was always very keen on tech, which was very fortunate that we were able to kind of fool around with gadgets and things. But the interesting thing about that stage of my life was I was an environmental scientist. I had a purpose. So, saving the environment, promoting sustainability. And through happenstance, somewhere down the line of being an environmental scientist, I worked in the government, I worked in the private sector, and I worked in NGOs. And the reason I did that kind of hits on something that you posted the other day about asking questions and staying curious.
Yeah.
Well, I figured, I don't know if I want to be in the government. I don't know if I want to be in private sector. And Ottawa in Canada is a particularly government-driven city. Almost 2 in 4 people work in the government. So it's, it's if you're being a scientist, normally they tell you in university, you're going to med school, you're going to be a researcher in the university, or you're going to the government. And so to me, that sounded a little bit crazy because the government kind of sounded like it sucked. Like you're in this dusty old library. And, I had summer jobs and working in the insect lab and things like that. And it's a little bit antiquated and it didn't have that drive and excitement. So I'm like, no, this can't be the answer. And so I wanted to stay curious, kind of as your quote said. And so kind of jumped around in the different sectors and tried them all out. And somewhere down the line, I ended up really taking a love to marketing and the tech side and the side of science communications, which I'm still kind of involved in today. And so that's kind of how I got involved in marketing. So it was in kind of science communications and marketing and education and the digital side. And eventually I had a friend that came to me one day and he goes, I'm opening a taco restaurant. Would you like to just do the marketing for it? And he goes, I know you don't really do this, but you've taken the summer. I'd taken a bit of a summer off, 3-4 months. And he goes, I'll give you free tequila and tacos for life. That was the deal.
No better bargain than that, dude.
Yeah. And boy, did I regret that deal. And boy, did he regret that deal because it ended up taking a lot of my time and I was eating every meal over there and smashing tequilas over the summer. But what I did recognize was that I loved solving problems. And that kind of comes from science as well a little bit. And I love having that answer and then, question and answer. And I guess that's the entrepreneurial mindset as well. And so I realized there's all these small business owners out there that don't understand at the time social media, which was super new. And they don't know how to gather content. They don't know how to put it out there. What if I create that service and build a team of people that come into your business for X amount of hours a week and you pay a monthly retainer fee, which is a super common model now. But at the time, we were the first one in town to do it. And I'll just scale out like that. Every restaurant could, pay $300-400 a month. And so next thing I know, fast forward 2-3 years later, I had a full-fledged restaurant marketing agency. And we took on some other clients, but it was primarily the food business. And that's how I got involved in some food businesses and e-commerce and whatnot. And so that grew. And I think our plateau was like maybe 15 to 30 clients, somewhere in there. And it was a really small team, mostly contractor-based and myself. And so recognizing that I need to scale up, I said, okay, well, I have 2 choices. I can either invest capital, which I don't really have right now because my margins they're very similar to the restaurant industry, actually, 30% margin.
Right.
Seems like every business is like that.
Yeah.
But that was, couldn't do too much long-term planning based on that. And I think I was probably somewhere between 25 and 28 at the time. So I sold half the agency to this other web marketing firm that had been around for a long time. And so they had a couple things that I didn't have. Well, one, they had accounting, they had admin, they had the reputation, they'd been around for a long time. And they had website services. I knew how to do website stuff, but I really didn't enjoy doing it because when you're doing the marketing, you're out there in meetings and stuff every day. You don't really have time to sit down at a terminal and build a website. And I didn't like the idea of handing it over to anyone because they don't understand the brand and whatever. That's a whole other rant. Right. So I partnered with this company and we worked together for about 3 years. We grew quite strongly from about 4 people to about 15. And now we have this website side of things. And then COVID hit. And luckily before COVID, my business partner had the foresight to say we need to diversify a little bit. For multiple reasons. Restaurant clients are kind of a bit of a pain sometimes on the payment side. Yeah. And he just loved bigger corporate clients. He was a very corporate guy. And so we made that pivot. And it was really luckily in time because it was right before COVID. And so we still retained about 30% of our restaurant clients, but we diversified out. So we did a lot of property management stuff, and property management was and construction companies, which was booming. And we did some tech stuff as well for some bigger cybersecurity companies, which was also booming. So we were able to weather the pandemic really well. No one got laid off. Everything was, business as usual. But again, I started to think about, okay, how do we reach that next step and how do we do that growth? So originally when I'd been looking around at companies to partner with, there was another guy who put an offer on the table. It was a younger gentleman. And his company was called Web Marketers. And he only did websites. He did some Google Ads stuff as well, which we didn't really do. So called him up and we ended up selling again half the company to him. And now we became 4 partners, a larger agency. It's specializing in paid Google, website design, backed by SEO data, or SEO practices, sorry, best practices, and the social media side. And we were the leading kind of one of the leading social media agencies in town. They were one of the leading web marketing agencies in town. So it was a really good kind of marriage. And so that's kind of how I weathered COVID. But, as some things kind of happen here, and let me kind of revert to my notes here. Well, I'll touch on a couple of things. So one thing was I really liked food marketing because it had a really frequent buying cycle. People eat 3 times a day. And so pulling from that science side of my brain, you like to run experiments and kind of learn. And so that stuff kind of got lost now because we weren't able to do that. And so getting my hands dirty wasn't something I got to do as much anymore. You're a bigger company, you're kind of doing HR, and you're kind of worrying about, different things. And it's really easy to get caught up as you grow it. And there's 3 kind of things that I, where did I have it here? Oh yeah, here we go. So 3 kind of growth traps that I noticed. This is kind of from my own kind of learnings, and I'm sure you can familiarize with it. Maybe we can chat about it too. One was like burnout. I was burning out. I had, like you said, I started a ghost kitchen as well, and I had a snack delivery company, and I had this marketing company that I'm, managing partner for, creative director. And so burning out for sure. Delegation becomes a little bit more chaotic because the staff also doesn't know, when you have multiple partners, who's leading things. I had a partner that would kind of zoom in for a day a week, completely kind of, dust off the whiteboard, and now we're like starting at ground zero, and
Right.
the team's kind of confused. And then there's that imposter syndrome as well. How did I get here? Because I kind of got there through serendipity. I didn't do an MBA. I had a science background. I never had a marketing background or a business background. So do I deserve to be here? Why am I making these choices? Are they the right choices? They appear to be, but who knows?
Yeah.
Did you ever kind of have that? I guess you kind of challenge yourself.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think it's weird if you don't have it. Actually, I think I'd flip that around and say, if you don't have that, I think sometimes it's really, really good to come to a place where you don't know how you got there. Just knowing that, I didn't put that. People feel like. So one of the big things that kind of like write about and preach about when it comes to entrepreneurship is like, everybody wants to overplan. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to. I want to plan to get here, and then when I get there, I'm going to plan the next thing. I want to plan. I'm going to plan. I have a very big problem with that, and partially it's because of my personality, and partially it's because I just don't feel like you can plan for the unknown. You can sit here. My friend has this saying that he told me a long time ago, and that I use all the time. It's like, expectations are just resentments waiting to happen, because what you end up hoping is going to happen, even if it's off a little bit, you're going to be mostly disappointed, because you're going to be like, that didn't happen the way I expected it to happen. So if you actually want things to happen, you just actually have to do them. And then when you do them, you get to another like point B at that point. And then at point B, you say, okay, what's the next thing I need to do? And what do I need to fix on point B now that I'm here? You can only really, in entrepreneurship, in my opinion, you can only fix things when you actually experience them, because you don't know whether you're selling product or you're selling a service or whatever else it is. You may have the biggest and best pitch, and you can close 99% of your clients, but whatever that is, you're never going to be 100%. That's just bottom line, no matter how fucking good you are, right? So to me, it's like, yeah, you're going to come in with imposter syndrome. You're going to be like, how did I get here? Why are these people even listening to me? Like, I don't even know half the shit that we're doing. I just put the right people in the right place, and let's get it rolling, like that sort of thing. So absolutely, man. I think that's a crucial learning curve. I don't even look at it as a pain point. I think that's actually a learning curve that you take with you, and you understand, like, sometimes I'm just going to get to places and I don't know how. It's like taking a wrong turn somewhere on the street, and you're like, whoa, this is a nice neighborhood. How did I get here? Same thing with entrepreneurship.
It's interesting that you bring that up. And I think one thing that you've done a great job on, or that you do a great job on, I've noticed, is you you put out a goal and you plan out your methodology on how to get there, and then you map out your next steps. And I like how you build that in public as well. You don't build that in secret. I think that's really admirable. And I think as entrepreneurs, I think we kind of have our little group on Twitter. I noticed that all of us are kind of building in public a little bit, but it's not that prominent normally in tech. I would say particularly in like old school tech, big tech, let's call it. But I really can appreciate that, and that's why I love Twitter, because you find that little group, and like I said, I think we found a little group here that we're all kind of challenging each other, asking each other questions, and I've never noticed anyone's hesitation to kind of answer anything, from their own experience, and that's important, I think, in the learning.
You have to my saying is you have to be okay with being wrong when you're having conversations, because then you're not going to learn anything, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to be willing to share and be like, oh, like for example, one of my big goals this year is, dude, I've been running businesses for a really long time, helping other people, consulting, doing all these other things. Copywriting and email marketing is something I never looked towards. Like I just was like, dude, somebody else fucking deal with that shit. I don't want to deal
Yeah.
with it ever, like ever. Because I wasn't good at it. It's not my forte. It's not my thing. But now I leaned into a lot more writing every single day, like literally every single day. And now I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to go and write those pieces, go do the landing page, go do the emails, go do all of this stuff. So you end up finding yourself kind of weaving through different
Hmm.
aspects of like you said, entrepreneurship mindset. Like I don't want to have to do everything. I want the right people to do it. But if I'm interested in something, you just got to lean into it. You just got to go in and say, I'm going to give this a shot.
And I think that's the difference between a first time entrepreneur and kind of more seasoned one. And you kind
Yeah.
of have to have, like you said, that journey to learn that. And that's kind of what I
Hmm.
learned. And so when I left, this is when we started chatting actually for the first time, when I left, and I was kind of still figuring out what I wanted to do. I was doing some consulting and some stuff here, but there was three kind of lessons that I kind of took from that journey, and that I realized I wanted to change in my life. And this is like after that, this year long journey is, it's taken me a year to figure these three things out, but I'll summarize them. So one
Hey,
is culture eats strategy for breakfast every single
right.
time. And at the end of the day, those four people that I was, or three people that I was partners with, we did not have the same culture. We did not align. And so that ended up sucking a lot of our time. And it fed into the next one, which was purpose over profit. I'm a purpose over profit guy. It shows
Hmm.
from, like, not to tell my own horn, but I came from a science background. That was my original career. Was,
Right.
environmental scientists aren't
Purpose.
known for making it rich. I'll tell you that. That was never my goal. And so
Right.
realizing that, that's when I was happiest, and I needed to get back to that. And when I was happiest is when I created the first idea for that company and those other ones as well. So, productivity comes from that. And so
Hmm.
so purpose over profit was something that I realized I had to reintroduce. And then not only that, building with purpose. And that was from Nazim Ahmed, who was a Campus Pop, one of the founders of Campus Pop, and he had a reasonable exit. And we were chatting. We chat every few months, and he really imparted that wisdom to me. He said, a lot of people feel like they have to build with purpose after they reach a certain point, but there's no reason why you can't build with purpose from inception. It takes a little bit more thought and a little bit more effort, and you got to kind of open your eyes a little bit more, but you can do it. And all those three things really resonated with me. And the fact that you can empower others and add value to their lives and to their journey, those were the things that making business owners lives more simple through teaching them about digital media. That was what got me started in the first place. And I reached a point where I wasn't doing that anymore. It was HR, it was bottom line, sales quotas, placation, BD, and we just such a long distance from where I had started. I decided to take a leave in the company, and they fully acquired us in the end. And so that's kind of when we had last chatted. So, three things that I did in the past year was I got back to learning. So when was I applied for an incubator, which was called Ignite out of Halifax, which is the eastern coast of Canada. And I put a little business idea together, and I completed that incubator. And I did that because I thought it would help me with my imposter syndrome a little bit. I don't know if it did, but to figure out, like, to validate those decisions that I made, and I learned a lot about pitching and raising and all that kind of stuff, growth, and had I done the
Hmm.
right things. And I was really pleased to see that in 7 out of 10 cases I had, and that was really good. So that kind of checked that box for me. The other one was getting back to empowering people. And so what I did was I took a bunch of time aside every week. I think it was like 5 hours or so, and I dedicated it to advising companies or startups. And so whether that was in
Okay.
exchange for equity or potential equity down the line or whatever it might be, that was a loose arrangement. But I felt that empowering other people to make a difference in their lives or their company's lives was great. And on a scientific level, you get a hit of oxytocin from this, right? Like, you get an adrenaline rush from this. So on a physiological level, it actually makes sense. And so that was great because when you're a founder and you're lost, you feel like you don't maybe have any use anymore. You're a little bit depressed. That was a great way to kind of self-medicate, I guess, in a little way, by
Right.
advising other people and empowering other people. And then the third one was getting back to creating. I was no longer getting my hands dirty, and I love to do the food stuff. I love to do food photography and video stuff. So I pitched a couple series to our local. It's like our version of NPR over here. It's called CBC. And so I pitched two
Okay.
things to them. One I'm working on right now. It's a little short film on a little food short film. Another one was a radio series on sandwiches throughout town. I went throughout town eating and reviewing sandwiches, which was
Oh,
super
that's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great, and get to connect with business owners again, and it was just about creativity, and it was creating for myself again. And so those were three things that I kind of really did. And there's three tenets that I always kind of try to live by, like educating, empowering, and exciting people. And it kind of hit on all those. So it's getting back to my
Love
roots
that.
a little bit, but with, like you said, a little bit more well-equipped kind of tool chest.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Yeah, so in short, that's kind of what I was doing there. And let me see here. Let me get to where I was going with all this. Oh yeah. So, figuring, so, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pay your bills too, though. So that's, so,
Of course, of course.
Luckily enough, I had a little bit in the tank that kind of got me through some things. And when we last chatted, I was joining as head of growth for a delivery technology company called Tiny Mile, which was remotely operated sidewalk robot delivery company. It's a bit of a mouthful. And they were just launching in Charlotte, and they launched in Miami now, but I helped them with their Charlotte launch, and they had just closed a round of about 10 million. So that was a super exciting environment to be around. But again, at the end of the day, me and the CEO and I guess some of the staff didn't seem to have the same culture. And so I decided to take a bit of a leave there. And so now I'm stuck again with kind of like, what did I want to do? I know the things that are driving me, and I know what I'm looking for, but how do I kind of do that? And knowing full well that now we're in the summer, I guess, here, and tech is starting to tank. So what do you do, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So an interesting kind of challenge.
So let me ask you, like, when you
Sure.
say, you're trying to figure out what you're going to be doing, like, is there anything that you're seeing, whether it's on social media or you're talking to people, that seems to like interest you? Is it like, hey man, like, because I always look at it this way. It's like, I started my first agency in 2018. I've gone through ups and downs and ups and downs, and constantly it's like this roller coaster that never stops. And
Yeah.
then I feel like, okay, what would happen if I just like took a step back from this, left, and came back? What would I do? And it's one of these things where I was like, now that I have that knowledge, I feel like I would have a very different way of starting, let's say, another type of service business, or partnering up with like the right people or whatever else it is. So do you ever see yourself kind of going back into that mindset of, oh, I've done this and I feel like I can this time around, knowing again, it's that learning concept, right? Like, now you can maybe, before you could plan to the next day, now you can maybe plan to the next week, and then after that you could plan for the next month, because you've already kind of been through that stretch of
Well,
time.
you're exactly right. So taking that time and taking that step back was super key. And I did that. And so one of the things I realized that had never stopped throughout, the past 10 years was people constantly, messaging to have a chat, or, pick my brain on this, pick my brain on that. And I do some advisory work at an incubator as well. And so they have a similar kind of coaching kind of program.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're with a company, I don't mind taking those meetings, and I still don't mind helping people for sure. But when you're with a company, you can justify that temporally because it's BD for all intents and purposes. It's, exercise in sales. When you're not working for a company, you have to be a little bit more protective of your time, because
Mm-hmm.
you could spend the whole day letting people pick your brain and take you for coffee, right? And we all know that. I'm sure you got my cousin's starting a business. They want to know about this. Can you look at this email newsletter? Or what do you think about? Can you make this intro to this VC? Blah blah blah. Pitch deck, etc.
You get pulled into everything at that point.
You get pulled into everything, and so
yeah.
So something happened in my life, and I don't mind talking about it. My dad actually got sick. He ended up getting cancer, and so one thing became very apparent. It was emotionally a large toll, mentally a large toll, and so I realized I have to become a lot more protective of my time. And so I think it was Harley or Toby from Shopify that once said, like, you're a battery basically, and everyone in your life charges or drains your battery. It's up to you to let someone drain your battery, and totally have no problem with people that I allow to drain my battery. But now that I have this kind of new familial thing and duties and obligations and things that are taking my mind away from things, I have to be a little bit more cognizant of things. And so I started to think about consulting and how can I consult, and how can I monetize that time and monetize those relationships. And I looked back at, there was someone that I used to chat with way back in the day, and it was this, way back in the day, I used to be part of this co-working center called The Hub, and there was a woman there that I had met. Her name was Max, and she was an economist, and she was all about, marketplaces and different things like that. And so we've always kept in loose touch. And she was launching this platform called Pick My Brain. And so it's a knowledge-based marketplace. And so I'll talk about it a little bit, because It's a really interesting platform, and that's kind of where I've shifted my focus. So I'm going to be helping the growth of that platform right now. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing some growth work for that platform, and they've been operating for about 3 years, raised money from friends and angels, but they're about to kind of embark on a bit of a raise, and they've got a new program that I'll tell you about. But the goal was to kind of help her kind of go to market and attack some of the revise our marketing mechanisms and machines, and then start looking at the B2C, because it's been primarily an exercise in B2B right now. And it really, hit on all those tenets that I really like. So I like to call it choose your own adventure learning is really what I call it.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting, facilitating that knowledge kind of transfer. And again, it gives people the opportunity. And again, I'm hitting back on something you posted, to ask questions, stay curious, and figure out what they do and don't want to do, which has never been more relevant than right now, when you have all these people that are laid off, kind of figuring out what's next for themselves. And so, they can log on to this marketplace, take out an hour with a C-suite person, for everyone from a C-suite person to someone that speaks about confidence in public speaking. It's the goal of the website is to be one of the most diverse knowledge marketplaces. So a little bit different than the other ones that are out there right now, like Gumroad
Mm-hmm.
and things like that tend to have a more corporate side to it. So that's kind of where I've landed right now, and kind of focusing my time a little bit. But what this allows me to do right now still too is, there's a couple full circle things that I've come back to, is giving yourself time to create. So by doing consulting, I give myself time to brainstorm and create and be more imaginative. And those were those things that were kind of those elements that were missing a little bit. But yeah, so that's kind of
Yeah.
the journey now. I've got some other stuff to ramble on about, but I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I really like that, the platform, because I think there's always room for people to pick up knowledge or talk to somebody, and go into specific areas of business, or whatever journey they're embarking on at the time. um but yeah, I would say that for on your end, in terms of kind of the next steps, or whatever else you end up doing and consulting with this company, like, do you ever feel like, you know working here's how I look at it. A lot of people that have been just like laid off, like Google just announced 10,000, 12,000 people,
Yeah,
Microsoft, all these companies are just laying people off. I feel like, and those people will be taken care of for a period of time. They're going to get a nice stipend of money, or whatever that might be. They'll have some time to potentially, depending on their situation, maybe take some time off and really like
yeah,
reset themselves and talk to recruiters and all this other stuff. But I also feel like this is an opportunity for people like myself and you, who truly like helping people, right? Like really go in and just like, guidance or whatever else it is to really tap in with those people, and just be like, hey, listen, you're at this level, you're a vice president, you're whatever, you're a product manager, it doesn't matter, you just got laid
hmm
off. So now that that's happened with a company with like Google or Microsoft, where you feel like, oh, this will never happen to me, which I'm sure a lot of people, when they got jobs, they're like, oh, I'm never going to get laid off unless I get fired for something. It's going to be, they have all the money in the world.
hmm
I feel like that's the opportunity right now for those people to start working on themselves, start putting together a personal brand and using their experience. Because my thing is always, whatever skill set you have within that company that they're paying you pretty substantial money, I am I'm willing to bet my money on it that if you were to go out on your own tomorrow, whether it's from a consulting advising perspective, and you come in with that knowledge from, like that big corporate level,
yeah,
and you're making a lot of decisions, all this, you can be like making 3 or 4 times what you're doing, as long as
hundred
you have
percent.
that right, somebody to maybe even like latch onto for a little bit, and pay somebody a consulting fee and be like, dude, I need you to guide me on how to create this, how to do this. Or even now, you might not even need that. You could probably just, if you have that time off, you can go on and go pick up knowledge everywhere, YouTube, go to Quora, go wherever you need to go to pick up those bits of pieces of information. And there's literally no, like, every single tool out there now, that there's no code tools, AI, all these other things, you can get to the source of what you need to do, like, with an instant. Like, you can snap your fingers and you can literally have whatever you need whether it's setting up an email list, whether it's like writing up your first blog, whatever that might be. Start sharing information, because the only way to really understand where you might be needed, or what piece of your knowledge that this company was paying you probably six figures for, what piece of your knowledge you can actually contribute to other businesses or whatever else that might be. And I would highly encourage, and whoever might or might not listen to this podcast, is like, go out there and just like start taking swings, take smaller swings, start tapping into, people on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever else it is.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, man, like you said, the entrepreneurial like community online is offering free knowledge by by I can't even, like, it's so much free knowledge out there. Like, I don't even know the word to use to, like, the abundance of like free knowledge that there is right now. And I feel like people, if those people take a minute, take a deep breath to go in and be like, okay, I can start my, start writing my cooking book, or start making my recipe book, or start, building my website, because I've always wanted to do like nutrition or whatever that might be. Like, those steps are so much easier to take now. Those steps are so, like, they literally don't cost you an arm and a leg anymore. For like $500 maybe, you can get everything, even less. That's even, I think, even too much, but like, let's say even 150, $200. Like, you can have all the tools that you need to run a full-fledged business. And like I said, taking whatever that company is paying you for and double or triple that for yourself. It might take a little bit of time. You might need to get a part-time job. You might need to go drive Uber for a little bit. You might need to do some supplement income till it gets to that point. But if you're already laid off and you have that time off, and you maybe have a little bit of a cushion of money that you can use, you might not even need to do that. So
I think you're
that's what I
you're
would
you're
encourage.
100% right. I mean, the person, like, if you have social media, or let's even go further. If you have an
Yeah.
email, you should be having you should be if you have an email, you should be working on your personal brand. And the fact of the matter is, your knowledge has value, and you're 100% right. So there is someone out there that's willing to pay for that knowledge that you've learned in your capacity at Microsoft or Google for their startup. And I think what's so interesting is, in times like this, and the dip, startups start to pop up everywhere. And that was one of the reasons that kind of sealed the deal for me, kind of joining the Pick My Brain team, was that realizing that this is an opportunity to do all the things that I've been doing or trying to do over the past year in one capacity, and helping other people do it. Because, when I joined the Tiny Mile team, one of the things that I noticed was it had just raised money. It was a really young team. I came in as head of growth, and it was just kind of like, okay, what do we do now? And I was thinking back, I was like, man, wouldn't it have been great if I'd come in and they'd already had a vetted 60-day plan that they had talked, that they maybe booked out some time with, a senior level Google growth marketer, and handed me that plan and said, hey, we know you're a great fit for this role. Let's execute on this plan and iterate as we have to, rather than, having that, us trying to kind of find awkward phase, or trying to figure out our rhythms, etc. Where do I get this? Where do I get that? Like, onboarding is a hard enough process. And I think you had a discussion of onboarding with one of your other guys the other day, but you can use this knowledge transfer economy to have a more effective and more enjoyable onboarding process for startups. And like you just said, right? So people can tap into senior learnings, or I guess that's maybe, I don't know what the word for it is, but more experienced people through all these kind of, whether it's Marketer for Hire or Pick My Brain or Gumroad or whatever. And the time is now. And I think you're 100% right. There's so much information out there. I probably do too much podcast listening every week, but it is overwhelming how much information is out there. But I think the approach they have to take, and is to take a lesson and a feather from your cap, is to set that goal and then figure out, okay, what knowledge do I need to fill that gap, or that gap in that question that I'm asking this week, and what's next week's question. And so set that objective and really take that approach to it, and then work towards understanding. Don't just dive into the pool of knowledge. Of course, it's going to be overwhelming. It's like diving into the ocean, right? But if you do it in a little controlled environment, like you said, saying, hey, I want to do an Italian cookbook, I need to figure out what are the best ones out there and what are the best formats. And you go grab that information, compile that into your Notion, and go back and hit the next step. It all goes back to, not to hit on my science kind of background again, but like neuroplasticity, right? These experiences and experiencing things will change your personality, will change the person that you are. That's what learning does. And I think it's important to remember that. And in a dip, there's all these people out there that are lost, and it can be a little bit depressing, but, also seeing the silver lining that it's a new opportunity. And like you said, there's people out there, the knowledge that you've had in your senior role, that's, if I could impart one message to all these people, 85 1,000 people in Silicon Valley right now, is that your knowledge has value, and there's people out there for sure looking for that knowledge and guidance. And just you gotta reach out to people like us that can help guide you along where to connect with those people. I think is the most important thing. Oh, I think you're muted.
My bad. I tried to
No
like, because
worries.
sometimes like I don't want
No
there
problem.
just to be like random background noise. But no, what I was gonna say is like I think nowadays is that if you look at the amount of, like, we talk about that knowledge transfer, like online, it's absolutely free at this point. But even if you were to step in and say, okay, what at this point is going to make a huge difference in my life from even a work life balance, like, and I'm not even, for myself, I'm gonna use myself as the example. It's like I'm not even at that point where I'm not nowhere close, I should say, where I can say I'm gonna just go like chill somewhere for a while and whatever else it is. Like, I got shit going on every single day, and I'm enjoying it though. That's what I
Yeah.
think it's a difference between maybe myself and the next person who's just doing things to do them, right? And so I'm every day kind of toying with this, like, okay, worked for 5 6 hours, took some breaks, whatever else it is. What do I now do to offset that, to re-energize myself? Like you said, there's certain things, whether you like them or you don't like them, they're going to drain that battery one way or another. We only have so much. We need to rejuvenate. We need to give ourselves rest and whatever else it is. I feel like if you take your time at a big company and you say, okay, what was my biggest issue being there? Even if I didn't get laid off, like, what is my biggest issue being there? Majority of the time, those people will say there's like either work life balance or something there. If you lean into that and you start your next thing just thinking like, okay, I have kids, I have dogs, I have whatever you have, I have grandparents I need to take care of, whatever that is, you can literally put your lifestyle first and build a business around that. Like, I truly
Yeah.
believe that.
I think you're 100% right, and I'm the worst person for work life balance. That's one of the reasons why I burnt out. I was doing the 90
Yeah.
hour weeks, and
And
it,
I
and it
did too,
doesn't
man.
work.
2021, dude.
Yeah,
Burned out. So
and
I
and
trust
you,
me.
and it
I've been
doesn't
there.
work, right? And it takes 6 months to recover from that. And I think the whole industry, in a way, has suffered from that a little bit. And exactly what you said, like, so moving with intent, right? And that's kind of what's happening in tech right now. Is the cows are coming home. It's accountability is the big word now.
Hmm.
And you have to move with intent. So it's like, does this need to be done now? Why does this need to be done now? And what's my goal here in doing this? Even when
Yep.
you're applying to an email, I think it's important to do that. And building that energizing lifestyle, like just doing this podcast, you can see I've got all these friggin' notes over because I was excited to do
Yeah.
it. I was excited to
Right.
chat about it, and this you're the first person I talked to about this kind of roundabout journey. All this stuff just kind of came together a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to tell that story, and I was excited to do that. And so I've enjoyed kind of mapping it out and preparing for this. And that's when you're checking the right boxes, I think. And that's the difference between, I think, a seasoned entrepreneur and kind of a first time one. There's of course those things that you don't want to do. There's gonna be those nights where you're eating tons of Chinese noodles for sure,
Yep.
and that's just part for the course.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you can't build with purpose. Again, like leading back, hitting on that statement again there
Exactly.
on the head. That's
No,
interesting, man. So
absolutely.
so tell me about your stuff though. So what's your? I've been rambling a lot about my own journey here, but what's been new? What's been
Um,
new with you? So you were minimizing. You were going through a minimization exercise at your agency before last we chatted.
yeah, exactly. So we had some restructuring. I'll leave it at that. We can talk off record for some of the
Yeah,
details,
for sure.
but yeah. So had some restructuring. We had a kind of a low point at the beginning of 2022. We had a astronomical 2021. Had some pain points early 2022, and we just from in the U.S. especially, and I know everyone around the world got hit. There was a lot of uncertainty, the economy, the stock market, people not willing to spend money because they don't know what the next thing is going to be. And, there's just, again, uncertainty, I think, was like the biggest word. And that affected us because a couple of different reasons. Up to that point, we had been running the agency for 4 years, never did any outreach. Like, everything, all of our business that we did, and we broke 1.4 million dollars in 2021. So
Amazing.
like, having all of that come inbound is pretty fucking amazing, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I was just like, wow, this is cool. And majority of that wasn't just like, we do great work and people are just finding us all over the place. It was like partnerships. Shopify would send people to us. Like, it would just come from different angles, but a lot of it again went back to us just doing honest and good work and standing
Yeah.
by our clients. And when the shit hit the fan, we were still there. I mean, to the point where in the early parts of the pandemic, I mean, the clients that backed off and were like, hey, we need to, I mean, dude, I ended up refunding close to like $50,000 in money
Oh, wow.
that like I didn't even have, like, to
Yeah.
the point where I was like, you know what, I'll figure my shit out. Like, but these people are hurting,
Yeah.
and the only thing that I can do right now is to potentially look at it in long term and say, if I help them now, maybe they'll come back and help us,
Well,
type of
it's
thing.
an exercise in
And I'm
relationship
not
building,
afraid to
right?
say,
Yeah.
I'm not even afraid to say that, because I feel like even if they didn't, it's not like I'm gonna be like, hey, remember when I did this? You have to. No,
Of
it
course.
wasn't
Yeah.
any of that. But I'm just thinking like kind of from a
I
from a
100% agree with
logical
that. I
perspective.
mean, it's an exercise, business owners relationship building, right? People come to you because they
That's
like
it.
to work with you. That's 85%
That's
of
right.
the equation. Yeah.
That's right. And so, so long story short, 2022 came around. I had to step back into the day-to-day role a little bit more. We went through some really tough pain points, and honestly, man, it just kind of was getting to a point where I didn't know what was going to happen. I was even considering, finding some investors to just drop some money in and all these other things. And then I kind of just refocused and refreshed, and I was like, you know what? Fuck all this. Like, we're gonna figure this out somehow. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be a slim team. We're gonna be lean. We're gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna keep the core people that are standing by me. I'm gonna stand by them and go in that direction. And so I think last time you and I talked, though, so at the beginning of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
I actually started another agency, which was a product studio.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
so, yeah, and so that's kind of where my heart's sitting at, to be quite
Okay.
honest with you, because I truly enjoy product. I like the service side to an extent, but I don't like the day to day what the service side brings. I like the day to day what a product brings, and me, and again, not to toot my own horn, but I just have enormous amounts of ideas and problem solving kind of things in my head, that I'm like, if I'm having issues with this and there's not a solution out there, somebody needs to either figure this out, or I'm going to have to build it within the next like month or 2 months or whatever that might be. And that's usually how my ideas come about. So um product studio has been doing pretty well. We've been knocking out, like putting out apps, kind of left and right, especially beginning of this year and the end of last year. And so that's been really really fun, getting like the first version out, getting some
Mm-hmm.
feedbacks, revamping certain things. And so the one that I'm most excited about, and I'm telling you this because I know you're in like the Shopify space, and a lot of the folks in that area, is the app that we have that's called Drop Voice. And so that app itself, what it is it allows merchants to attach a voice note to a product. When they
Oh,
attach that voice note, and so what happens is, you sit on your phone, you say, hey,
yeah.
let's say this cup, I'm just going to use this as an example. Hey, thank you for buying the mug. Just wanted to let you know that the mug itself is unbreakable. If you drop it out of an airplane, it's still going to be in one piece. And materials that we use from there are recyclable, whatever else it is. And giving that extra nugget of information to customers. And so when we first initially launched the app, we focused on like post purchase stuff. So what we wanted to
Okay.
do, and I'll take you kind of through a journey. I Working on the service side of things, all I'm seeing in the Shopify space primarily is when somebody buys something, you're triggering to buy more. There's an
Yeah.
upsell. There's a give me your email because I'm going to sell you more through email. There's a text message. I'm going to text you and sell you more and more and more. And it's just like this take thing. And I just been sitting on this idea for like 6 months at that time. I was like, man, what can I do to kind of turn that script the other way a little bit? Why not go back to the brand? Because I think the
Mm-hmm.
brand, especially nowadays, is what puts you into a category of winners and losers pretty much at this point. Because if you're just that's why drop shipping you don't hear so much about, and I'm not in tune with that world at all, because I just don't like that world. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool if you found your hustle there,
I
that's
totally get
perfect.
it.
You know what I mean? For me, I think it's like brand, and whatever that brand is, it's like building that relationship closer with customers. And so, I think email is a great way of doing it. I think all these things are great, but there wasn't a personal effect on in the Shopify space. And the reason I'm using Shopify is because I just absolutely love the product. I think
Yeah, of course.
it's amazing. It unlocks people to be able to sell whatever they want, and it's a space where you can create some cool stuff and be very profitable. And again, purpose, like that stands out to me when you say that, because the purpose for me to build this app was to tie the customer back to the brand and make it, a kind of like a novelty item again, where
Hmm.
you're here. And this, and our first version of our app kicks in after you've purchased a product, so that by the time you've
Yep.
purchased, you've already slid your credit card and everything, you paid $20 for this damn mug right here. You get this voice note from the founder or somebody, whoever that is, and just says, hey, thanks so much for purchasing, blah, blah, blah. Here's a little bit about our brand. Here's a little bit about the product, whatever, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, I'm just like, wow, that would be fucking cool to just have that like sort of like added piece on top, where you already committed to the product. You don't need anything more.
I love
But
it.
this person
I
just
absolutely
ended
love
up
it.
giving you I ended up just giving you more value at this point. And
It's
so for me, that was very, very important, because we can use this in different ways. If you want to give discounts, if you want to
mhm.
do, I look at the music industry, and I think this is a completely untapped market that I just want to go balls to the
Wow.
walls with. Is, let's say, buying this sweatshirt, let's say fucking Lil Wayne or Drake, or doesn't matter, says, hey, we're going to be selling 1,000 sweatshirts, and this sweatshirt is going to have a exclusive song that's going to come with this product. So when you buy it, you can listen to the song right away. It's just like, whoa, like that puts you in touch with that artist on a whole different level.
I think that's a great idea. And so, like, as you know, you kind of hit on the head. I do some Shopify stuff. I love the last mile delivery side of things. I had a last mile delivery snack company. Still haven't, kind of getting
Yeah.
unentwined with it right now. But one of the things that I was kind of preaching at Tiny Mile, and so I've joined another delivery startup now as well. I'm doing a bit of consulting, and it's an autonomous drone delivery company. And I'll kind of touch why this is relevant to what you're talking about. But I classified as delivery as three things. So, the customer placing the order being processed, and then the delivery experience. Most of these things on the front end have been customized. It's the delivery experience that hasn't been customized yet. And so you can do a batch delivery. Now the problem is, when you do a batch delivery, you can't customize it really. And so one of the things I liked about Tiny Mile, people would go, well, what's the difference between Walmart's autonomous trucks with 20 orders on there, or Tiny Mile does a one-to-one merchant to customer delivery? Well, you can customize that experience. So when you open the robot, you get your order out, and one of the ideas we had was playing a recording from the store. That was one of the ideas
Yeah.
about customizing it, and I think it's exactly what you said. It's the brands that customize the whole experience that are going to be the winners now. Back in the day,
Yep.
you had eBay, right? So like eBay was the earliest form of e-commerce. Then Shopify came in and allowed you to customize that store experience. Now the next thing is going to
Hmm.
be who allows you to customize that delivery experience. That's going to be that's
Exactly.
that's what's happening right now. And I think that's also why you're seeing a reemergence in retail right now, because for all intents and purposes, that's allowing you to customize that customer click and collect experience. That's the delivery experience.
E-
You're customizing the tail end. So I
exactly.
think you hit the nail on the head there. And I'd love to see if maybe we
And
can integrate with the drone stuff, so that when the drone delivers something, maybe it pulls the recording from your plugin.
easy, easy.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have to
I
chat
definitely
offline
can
about
make it.
that.
So let me, absolutely. So let me tell you, and this is, no joke. If we were in the same room right now, I would show you. I just got a little bit of chills after what you just said.
Yeah.
Um, because for me, I didn't want to stop on that post purchase page, right? So what I did is I talked to my developer, and I was like, how do we make this work? What if on that post purchase page, we give the customer the option to opt into SMS or email? And we're not going to
Okay.
badger you. We're not going to email market to you. We're not going to do anything. Simply what we're doing is, when you input that information, that sends us a notification that says this person's input it. And we go in and track the shipment of that product. When that product arrives at your doorstep, we send you that text message that minute that gets delivered. So now you're holding the product, and you have the voice note in your hand, and you can listen to exactly what that person
Yeah.
said.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, by the way, on the software side right now. So we'll have to chat about it.
That's it.
And I love the other idea of being
And
able to. Sorry, go.
no, I was just going to say, so now, literally today, tonight, we're updating the app. I have a bunch of work to do over the weekend, but we're updating the app to basically, we're adding the pre-purchase side of things now. We're adding adding voice snippets to product pages, to contact pages, whatever that might be. But the thing is that we're also allowing people, we give them an HTML like snippet that they can literally add to any store, any website, anything that you
Okay.
have access to the HTML code. You can add that on there, and you can play that snippet that you have recorded.
Okay, so it's agnostic in a way a little bit, as long as you can access the
Hundred
HTML code.
percent,
So
hundred
that's really
percent.
interesting. So Hover, which is the name of this company, Hover.direct, we're going to be doing a pilot in Toronto this summer. We did an MVP last summer. They did an MVP last summer. Did about 1,000 deliveries. So we'll be launching another pilot this summer. And depending on the vendors that sign up, I'd love to chat with you and see if we can integrate that, because I think that
Dude,
again it adds that extra touch of the personalization. And I also love the idea, because we have the drone with the camera, of being able to solicit customer feedback as well in a way like, hey, do you mind if we, now that
mhm.
you have your product, do you mind if we snap a picture of you with it? And the guy's holding the box, looking up and snapping a photo that gets sent to us for social media
Yep.
use or whatever. I love the idea of that two-way integration. So we'll have to chat about that, man. That's interesting.
Yeah, please, please. I would absolutely love it. So that's the product that has like all my juices flowing right now, because I just, there's nothing out there like that on the Shopify App Store at the moment. Like literally we are a party of one at the moment, which is great. Um we've got some cool brands on board. Have you heard of the brand Houseplant?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Seth Rogen's company, I believe, right? Yeah,
Yeah. So they
yeah.
came on board to
Okay.
drop voice,
Wow.
which is going to be really fucking exciting, because hopefully we can get him to like record something,
Oh,
and
that'd
and
be
again
very
that.
interesting.
So I've been trying to get Harley. Like I've messaged Harley on Instagram, and I don't
Okay.
think he like reads his messages or whatever. But I would love to have him on there for Fire Belly, because I think his voice now,
Okay.
especially, does
Let
a lot
me.
of talks.
I'll
He's
maybe I'll
very,
shoot him a text later on.
yeah, just if dude, I'm again, I don't want this to be any kind of obligation if you
No,
feel
no, no,
like it
no
would be the
worries.
right thing, but that's one of those things. Like I want to tap into these markets where it's like music.
Yeah.
Music is in my heart, so like I would love to people like Russ, for example. I'm a huge fan of Russ. Being able to tap in with him and just be like, dude, because he's always posting snippets of his songs on social media and
Yeah.
whatever. Just it's like you can leverage making money and just having like that recording, because what you can end up doing is saying, hey, if you go buy this sweater 30-40 bucks, whatever else it is, you're going to get a song that nobody else is going to have. We have a
Yeah.
limited run, and you're going to have that song in your portfolio to be able to listen to it. And then
That's
when we
super
release
cool.
it, you can, you know what I mean, like there's so
Yeah.
many cool ways we can
And
do
that's
this.
even cool for like big ticket items. Maybe you get a customized one or whatever. It's like a reward, right?
Hmm.
You know who you should talk to? So you should talk to Pop Chew, which is a company that just got some funding. It's out of New York, if I'm not mistaken, and they released
Okay.
Ghost Kitchen brands for influencers. So like they don't do Beast Burger, but they do ones like Mr. Beast Burger. So imagine someone's ordering food from this influencer and they get the message from that influencer. I think that's like a no brainer for you
That
to talk to those guys. Yeah.
Dude,
So,
absolutely.
so it's called Pop Chew.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll
you
have
should
to
take a look
talk. We'll
into
have to
those.
have a second conversation after this.
Yeah,
But anyway,
definitely.
so
Yeah,
those are the kind of things that I'm always going into these areas of like, what's the problem I have? I go on Google, I do a quick search. Does somebody solve my problem? Cool. I'll buy the product. I'll test it out, whatever else it is.
yeah.
But dude, if it's not there, literally, if it's not there, I'm like, hey, we need to build. Like, we need to get this out there. Even if it's just us using it, we need to get this out there. And I heard Kevin Rose on a podcast recently with My First Million say he's kind of in the same mindset. And I literally ended up posting the quote from him, was like, if it doesn't exist and I need it, I'm building it. Like that's
Yeah,
literally my rule. And then if other people use it, that's great. Like he had built some meditation app. It was like before
I
Calm
remember
and
it.
all
I've
these
been
other
following
things.
Kevin for years. Yeah, he always had like
Yeah,
little
and
things that
he
he was building for sure.
exactly. And dude, that he was just like, and nobody cared about it. Like we didn't get any downloads. And then the pandemic hit, and he's like, dude, it took off. Like it just we got like 2,000-3,000 downloads a day for a while. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So it's like, to me, it's just these problems may not be at its high point right now, but you never know which way things are shifting and what's going to happen. And I feel like this voice side of things, like, is just a different compartment for you to get really creative with your brand and what you can do and what you can offer your customers, and really connect those dots on a whole different level.
I think it's a genius idea, man. That like I said, that personalized delivery is, or like that end post purchase is something that I've been really focused on, and so I think you hit the nail on the head. And just on the creating side too, I think you talked about this with, I mean, we talk about this online all the time. Justin Welch is a big advocate for it. And you were talking to the other guys about it before on one of your podcasts, like creating content, right? Like sometimes you'll put posts out and like,
Yeah,
you think it's amazing and like two people like it, but it's not about that. Like it's more than that. It's like, you will never develop your process, get more efficient at doing things. And how do you commercialize your ideas, or how do you create how do you take something from whiteboard to reality, unless you do it. And so not everything's going to be a home run, and it's about consistently creating,
yeah,
and that's what creates it. And you have to free up that time. And so that's again, like
yep,
the big agencies are great. I think big agencies, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this right after, but I think, everyone, including business owners, have got not only they've had not only like 2 3 years now to sit at home and get a small degree for all intents and purposes in digital marketing. In some cases, they've been given grants to learn about it, and so everyone's coming back to the marketplace way more educated. And so again,
hmm
it's like that accountability. Like, those people that were charging $500 to set up a Twitter profile or a Facebook page, like, dude, you knew that was going to end. You never should have been doing that. And I mean, those days are over. And I think the big
yeah.
agencies that continually to operate based on that fat, it's time to pay the piper. And you need to present value. And sometimes that means having a more lean team, because those lean team members are more specialists and a little bit more clinical, if
Ex-
you will.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and I'm a huge believer. I'm a huge believer in that, and I think one thing that I'm starting to realize, and you could look at it as good or bad. I think it was just part of our journey, is that we had this very um, I would consider, even though we were just in the Shopify space, we still had, within the means of Shopify, we still went really, really wide. And we grew our team to 22 people, and we were full service. So we did
Yeah.
this branding, design, development, marketing, like we hit all these things on the head. And that was great when you have the people and clients are coming and you can be like a holistic solution for them and all this other stuff. That's great. But there was, I think, more people that turned us away because we weren't singular focused on, let's say, being the best design agency, like
It's so interesting
being
you say
the
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Originally, when I started, and that's why I never wanted to do web design. I just wanted to do the social media, the creative, and the strategy was something I always
yeah,
emphasized on. Backed by a little bit of data and everything, but which I think is ironic because it's come full circle. Creative and strategy are important now. But when I left, we were a full stop shop, and we not only did we have, so we had three companies. It was a suite of companies. We had Media Launch, was the one that I started, which was the social media and marketing. Then we had Web Marketers, which does the website, and they're still around. They do websites and things like that. And then there was another one called Phantom Productions that was starting to do videos, and in particular driven by the need for banner videos for websites. And
yeah,
it was a one-stop shop, and I no longer felt like that specialist, and that, like I was taking that. It's hard to have all that mechanism running at the same time. You almost have to be the Ford of companies in order to do that, and that's not really what I wanted
hmm
to be. When you're that, you can't roll up your sleeves and get in the creative and the strategy side. You kind of have to just figure out, okay, what
hmm
works. Okay, it's good enough. We can't take any risks really, because the
right,
machine's just too big. And I think
yeah,
that was a bit of a challenge for me. And I think you probably experienced the same thing. It seems like.
absolutely. And I think also it it stunts your growth a little bit, as crazy as that sounds, because we ended up growing a lot, but it also stunts your growth in different ways because, like you just said, you have this big machine. If one thing goes wrong on this side, it's affecting over here, and there's
Mhm.
5 6 people in on that chain that need to now be changing up their day to day. Their creative side of things has changed. Now they have to do this, and it's too much of an effect. Like, I like moving quickly and swiftly. Like, that's my thing. It's like, okay, hey,
Yeah.
we're doing something. We're gonna try something new today. We're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and we should start that tomorrow. And here's a plan for that. And let's just get out there and start running. And if something, if we trip over something, we get up, we fix it, and we keep moving on to the next thing, and we keep going. I think there's something
Yeah.
to be said about speed and the level of, like, not, like I said in the beginning, the over planning thing. Like, the
Hmm.
problem that I had with the 22-person team is that every time, let me just give you a snippet of the what I had come up with and how long it took to implement something. So
Sure.
about 2019, maybe early 2020, I just remember thinking to myself, I think I literally like had written it on my white wall, and I was just like, memberships. Like memberships are going to be a huge thing. And the reason why I believe that is because I think with memberships you can do a lot more brand building, and I think you could do a lot more close relationships with your customers and your
Yeah.
clients, right? So I kept telling my team, I said, we need to get in front of this. We need to either build something, we need to do a marketing campaign, and we need to like really focus in on being the agency that offers this like membership services type of thing.
Hmm.
Man, with that many people on our team, it was like constantly like, oh, we'll have to do this, and then we have to do this, and this needs to change, and then what do we do here? How are we gonna? I'm just like, oh man, like this, like, dude, I would say 8 months, maybe a year after that, everybody in Shopify, like literally everybody, recharge all these people, memberships. We're focused on memberships. Do membership, like memberships are great. We get. I'm just like, oh man, I was like,
Yeah.
we could have been literally the team that comes in and we knew the ins and outs of recharge and all these other apps that are on
Yeah.
there. And it was like we could have been like the folks that they would just literally send all of their clients to, because they were like, these people know what the fuck they're talking about. And they've been doing this before anybody. Like sometimes you have to take that leap of faith. And dude, if
For
shit
sure.
hits the fan, we had always something else to fall back on. Like we always had the
Yeah.
design clients. We had it's not like we bet all of our chips, but like that component would have been so important to us. And it's just one of these things that we didn't execute on time, and I think we shot ourselves in the foot. But again, that was the big thing. Like right now with 6 people, I can turn around tomorrow and just be like, hey guys, we're running a marketing campaign and doing like membership stuff, and I'd be like, okay, let's do it, fuck it.
And I
And
think
it just
I
moved on
think
from
yeah,
there.
if you want to be that leader, you need to take those risks that other people wouldn't take. Obviously, right now the economic climate, you got to focus, like business wise, you got to focus a little bit more on profit than growth for sure. We all know that,
Yep.
but you do have to take those risks that other people aren't willing to take, and those are the agencies that you see in the headlines. And I think if you look like a Nick and the guys at Structured Agency, like I love the way they operate in pods, because they're doing exactly what we're talking about, right? Like they have
Yeah.
that pod, they task that pod, and that pod's nimble and agile and can adapt. It's not, when you have that big company and you bring in a new idea, 25% of the people are like, okay, cool. 10% don't really care. Some of them don't understand it. You got to explain it. And then there's other
Yeah.
naysayers you got to convince. And it takes like 4 months, but realistically only 5% of that group needed to be involved in the project. But
Yep.
full transparency and management, etc., and it can get a little
Yep.
bit
That's it.
tiring for sure. That's great, man. I'm
So
glad to see the success on the
that's
product side for sure for you.
thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And that's the part of my, my ongoing sort of journey is like whatever I'm doing, if I'm building like a small, like I'm trying to keep between my two businesses right now. I'm keeping so actually I would say, let me see. So I have the service agency, I have the product agency, I have the personal brand stuff, I have the podcast, like all of these little like components. And the personal brand, the podcast and everything goes under that. And then I have the service agency and the product agency. So let's say three like kind of overarching like businesses.
Yeah.
Between those three, we're gonna tap out at like 10 or 11 people total.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
And
And
that's a good number, I think.
I think that's all we really need. Is like, especially for me, what I'm working towards, with all the stuff that I'm even putting out online, or whatever that might be, with the podcast, with the newsletter, all of these components are all just things that I truly enjoy doing, experiences I want to share, learnings I want to share, everything that I'm doing that I want to talk about. And at the same time, it becomes a marketing vessel for anything else that I work on. So
Yeah.
in the agency space, we're doing an agency starter kit, which is basically what I needed when I started my agency, which was all these components of your scope of work templates, your onboarding guides, your sales workflows, like all these little things that you,
Mm-hmm.
as a first time agency owner, you're like, I don't know what I need at this point. But if I had that, now thinking back on it, if somebody had told me like, dude, you buy this thing and it will set you up to the point where you just have to focus on selling and getting those clients in the door, because your back office is pretty much set up at that point. That to me would have been the most crucial piece. I would have paid $3,000 at that point for something like this.
Yeah.
And so
Have you
for
ever?
me,
Sorry, go.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have you ever looked at Jason Fried and his work around 37 Signals and his book Rework and stuff like that?
Love it. Love Jason Fried, dude.
He's preaching, right? Like I think it's important that you old tech was like delegate, delegate, delegate. And I get it if you're
Yeah.
running like $1 billion company or something like that. But
Right.
at our level, you need to you need to protect and cherish at all costs those activities that you like doing, like you're talking about, like writing and stuff, because they energize you for the rest of it. You can't just
Exactly.
delegate everything. You need to protect those activities. I think you do a great job of that, man. I can tell between when we last chatted, I think it was like 2 years ago, like you said, to now, the tone and like the content you're putting out, like there's an energy to it. It's invigorated. I think it's super
Thank
admirable,
you.
man, the journey that you've gone on.
Hey, man, I really appreciate that. That means like the world to me. When we talk about imposter syndrome, like that's when it really like for me, like last year in April is when I really opened up the floodgates and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start putting shit online. I'm gonna start writing. I'm gonna put it all on there. Whatever people like, they don't like. What I don't give a shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, it goes a long way when somebody says something like that because it's everything that I want to talk about is just literally it's purpose driven to the point where I want to help other people out. That's what I
That's
want
the
to do.
key.
Yeah, like that's literally all it is.
That's
And
the key,
so
man. And on that. Sorry, I had a little bit of lag there. Sorry, finish.
no, so that's always been sort of my under like that's my foundation. So now when I'm talking about the podcast, the newsletter, and all these like components, that's just the whole part of like the personal brand and building a long
Mm-hmm.
sustainable. So tomorrow, if I decide to sell everything and walk out the other way, and I can go ahead and start something else, I have an audience and I have people that I've shared all of my experiences with, like put all of my chips on the table pretty much, and I've earned that trust, I've earned that transparency from them on it, like everything. I can go out and I have a immediate base of people that are going to at least see or read or even use one of my products.
And that's super important. One of the things I always left to the backstage was my personal brand of it, and now I
Hmm.
realize I've started working on it. I realize the importance of it, and you'll notice too, like a lot of CEOs, once their company hits IPO or something like that, then they'll start to work on their personal brand, but they never did it
Yeah.
before. But I think it's important that you do that from day one, and you recognize the value that you have in your knowledge, and you help kind of empower
Hmm.
people. That's the name of the game. I think
Yeah.
I'm excited about this new. There was hustle culture was kind of like the past wave, and I'm excited about this
Yeah.
new purpose driven entrepreneurship that's kind of taking you over, and I look forward to seeing what it does for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely, and it's exciting. It's exciting to. I mean, dude, just from the simple perspective of I alone in the past like 2-3 months, I've even had opportunities to like do some business coaching with people and get them get them to kind of unlock themselves and reduce a little bit of imposter syndrome and kind of give them my story and how I did it and all these other things. And man, I cannot tell you, I posted something the other day because it just like hit me differently. Somebody posted on LinkedIn or sent me a message on LinkedIn and basically said, dude, ever since you started posting, I've been reading everything you've been posting. And I just started like doing a bunch of different like little projects. And he's like, the long story short, he just put at the bottom, he's like, dude, you're an absolute role model for me. And I was just
Wow,
like,
that's good.
whoa. I was like that is insane for
That
me to
hits, yeah,
like I dude, that hits different
yeah.
because at the same time I'm not out here preaching to something that I don't know anything about. I'm keeping things as simple as I can. I'm trying to make it consumable. I'm trying to make it, like just to get the word out there. And if it's just one person that I affect, to me that's all that really matters. And I
That's
think yeah, it's just different. And that's where when somebody like charges your battery like you were talking
yep,
about earlier, those things will charge your battery for the next like 3-4 weeks without you ever running out of juice.
for sure. I think again, I think it's like that purpose over profit. I read this the other day too. Like if you strive for profit, you won't find purpose. But if you strive for purpose, you can find profit. And I think
Exactly.
that's an interesting statement. Man, we should get you on Pick My Brain, by the way, and you should do a webinar on personal branding if you're down.
I'm absolutely down. I'm
I'll
absolutely
send you
down.
some
Just
stuff for it.
you tell
Yeah,
me when and where, dude, and I'm there, dude.
perfect. Sounds good, man. Well, I won't take up too much of your time, and I really enjoyed chatting. We shouldn't make it too long before the next one for sure.
No, absolutely, man. If you ever want to do, if you ever want to do like a Twitter Spaces, or you want to do anything else
Totally.
and chat, do another podcast, talk about anything else. Did you want to touch on anything else? I mean, I still have time if you're not rushing, but
Oh no, I'm not rushing
do,
at all. I'd love to plug this
okay,
little pick my brain thing though, if that's all right with you.
please
Sure.
plug it, and we'll make sure to add it to the notes of the podcast as
Sure.
well.
Yeah. So this is one of the things I'm helping them scale, and I think you'll appreciate it and it'll resonate with you too. It's called Meet the World's People, and so it's about connecting about 1,000 people. Hopefully, is the goal. By the so 1,000. We're trying to aim for 100,000 members by the end of the year for the website. We've got over 1,000 right now, but so Meet the World People is about connecting people in powerful ways and creating a global network and global connection. There'll be a multitude of events online and some in person. So our CEO is traveling around right now. She's in South Asia in the MENA region, trying to unlock some of the knowledge economy over there in Pakistan, India, and Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and getting those people online, some of their knowledge as freelancers, etc. But it's a super interesting way, and I think with what's happening right now in the world, expanding your network is important. Asking questions is important, and learning from other people's experiences is important. So that's something we're going to be pushing. It's this program called Meet the World's People. It's like $200. You get a profile with it, and then you can build your offerings. And I'm really excited to see where it goes and what happens from it. Just to give you a little brief, just empirical evidence. So
Yeah.
the founder, Maxine Cunningham's her name. Just as a founder, so she's doing almost 30 MRR on the website, and she's done over a
Oh wow.
thousand kind of one-to-one conversations. So that's it's pretty lucrative income, and
Yeah.
there's a couple other people on the website doing the same. So there's like I said, about 1,000 brains on there or something like that right now.
Yeah.
And they span everything. So the goal is to be the most diverse knowledge based marketplace. So there's someone on there the other day that I saw that was like an Olympic level volleyball player, and talking about dedication and determination and in your work and in your process in your daily life, right? So it really resonated with me because one of the things that I did when I was younger was I founded the Creative Mornings Ottawa chapter. I don't know if you've heard of Creative Mornings. Um,
No, I haven't.
no, so you'd really like it. So it's a monthly breakfast lecture series for creative people that approach their occupation or their process through an unorthodox fashion. And it was started, it must be almost 15 years ago in Brooklyn. There's over 100 and some chapters around the world. It happens on the last Friday of every month. There's a breakfast talk, there's a talk, and then there's a Q&A. And so I started the Ottawa
Hmm.
chapter about 10 years ago. We've probably had over 30,000 people come to the events now. And
Okay.
it's all about that. It was all about connecting and meeting people and hearing about how they've approached their challenges and obstacles in life. And so that's one of the reasons that kind of looped me into to pick my brain. But you should check it out, Creative Mornings. I'll flip it to you. It's
Awesome.
a
Awesome.
really
Please
really
do,
interesting
man.
series. And you're in the U.S. You're in Utah or Colorado?
No, I'm in California
Oh, you're in
actually.
California. Oh, I don't know why I thought that. Where in
Yeah,
California are you?
I'm in Sacramento
You're in
actually.
Sacramento. I believe they have a Sacramento chapter, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And yeah, I think you'd really enjoy going out there and connecting with some like-minded people.
Awesome. Awesome. Please send me that info. I'd love to. And yeah, pick my brain. I just opened it up on my end, and it seems really, really interesting. I might need to link up with you and maybe get set up on
I
there or
think we're
something
gonna
like
get you
that.
on there, man, for sure. I think
Okay.
you'd contribute,
Perfect.
loads to the ecosystem, and like I said, it's different than the other ones because it's not just about the corporate slant. It's not just about
Right.
hiring out for consulting hours. It spans beyond that. But the idea is this in essence a little bit when you do mentorship. Someone saying, "Hey, can I pick your brain about something?" It's different than when there's a transaction. When it's a transaction, you actually build a level of trust. If someone, I'll give you an example. I participate every year in the mentorship program at my old alma mater to teach them that there's other opportunities other than the government and science.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I never get to sometimes they're students, so sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't show up. I still like to do it, but it doesn't really matter to me if they show up or they don't show up. It's
Yeah.
on them. It's the onus is on them. But when there's a financial transaction, that level of trust is built a little bit more, and it's expanding on each other's network. There's a level of equality in it, right? Someone's exchanging something of value, whether it's monetary or not, for
Hmm.
something of value from your end, which is knowledge and time. And so that's an equal relationship in terms of trust, and that's how you build a network, right? Build a trust building. And so that's the difference between this and kind of mentorship in that capacity. But then also on the other end too is having those different types of creatives and different types of people from all walks of life on there. And the thought process is a more well-rounded employee or person for that matter is more effective in whatever they're doing. They're more educated, they're more well-read. And so we're doing a lot of B2B right now with I can't really say who, but different kind of companies, corporate companies that are, they would buy X amount of hours on Audible for their employees. Well, now they're buying them X amount of hours on PMB so that they can go choose their own learning and learn at their own speed from whatever topics they want, right? So yeah, exactly. So you've got a staff member that, wants to learn more about growth marketing. Well, they can go out there and do that on their own. And the same rings true now for universities as well. So getting students on there so that they can learn a little bit more, and getting the faculty on there as well. So it's helping monetize, professors and things that are, maybe, think about all these people that are on campus that have so much wealth of knowledge, but only in the classroom environment. And they've never, they did their PhD. They've always been in an academic environment. They have no idea that they could, potentially go and do some consulting and monetize their knowledge in whatever it might be. Right. Because, you're building a product and you need to talk to someone with a PhD in music. You can go on there and do a little bit of empirical research and evidence talking to them. So there's a lot of value in there. I'm super excited to see where it goes.
Dude, I love that. I need to get involved in that shit somehow, man. I need to.
I'll shoot you some links and stuff over the weekend for sure.
Please do, man. Awesome. Well, Sharif, thank you so much, man, for being on the pod. And we're definitely gonna have to do this again because I feel like I can talk to you for the next 3 hours, dude. So no, this is awesome. And let me know what else you where people could follow you, or anything else you want to plug in there that might be
yeah. I mean, you can find me on Twitter on LinkedIn under Sharif Virani, and on Twitter at The Scribbler. Feel free to follow me. I love chatting with people, and anyone looking for a drone wants to do a drone delivery pilot. We're looking for some things. We'll be in the U.S. doing a bit of a raise tour, so we'll be around the southern U.S. But if there's anyone out there that wants to do a autonomous drone delivery pilot, we're all ears, and we're in that building phase right now. It would be a good opportunity to chat with us. So that's really what I wanted to say. And yeah, if there's any other people that love to talk about building with purpose-driven businesses and growth marketing, shoot me a message or a DM, and we'd love to chat. And as well, if you're ever down in Canada, give me a ring, and I'll take you around somewhere.
I definitely will, man. The only place I've been to was Toronto, actually, when I went for Shopify Unite in 2018 or 19 or one of those years. I think it was 19 actually, or maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, so that was fun. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'll definitely let you know if I'm in your neck of the woods. And same goes for you, man. If you're ever in Sacramento, just pick up the phone and call me, man. I'd be happy to take you around and show you around and go eat some tacos somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds good, man, for sure. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll flip you those links over the course of the weekend.
Perfect.
Have a great Friday.
Cheers, brother.
Well, you made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning into What is My Brain podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some value out of it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button or the follow button to get notified when new episodes are live. I'm out. Thank you.